In this video, we're going to look at combining the data all into one web table. Previously, we normalized our data, which gave us 3 tables that had this data in there: ice cream table, lab 9 base, table lab 9 add-in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to match those records so that the base ID and the add-on ID match, and it will give us back, instead of an ID number, it'll actually give us the name. And then we'll briefly touch on some ordering or sorting the output. Now go ahead and click on this example ice cream, view all tables, all records, raw data. This is just data straight out of the database. No manipulations, no joining or comparing ID values. Basically it's just the raw data. And now how did we get this? So I'm going to explain a little bit what's happening. Notice we'll talk about the base table first. The base ID number 1, 2, 3, 4. We have the base names and the date. How did we get this in here? How did we format it? We are in the example ice cream, view all table, all records, raw data. In PHP here, once again we're going to go for the raw data. We'll open it up. Looking at the top here, we have some standard HTML. We're setting up our HTML document. Then we have our include that has our credentials that allows us to access the database: username, password, hostname. Lines 16 to 19 and then down to 22, this actually makes the connection from our web server to the actual MySQL database. The line 16 here, the try, meaning okay, go ahead, do whatever in these squirrely parentheses. And the nice thing about PHP is if there's an opening bracket, PHP, if you click on it, will highlight the closing bracket and then also draw a line with how long that is. It will try to do whatever in between these two curly brackets. Once again, we're going to go through, we're going to set up the connection based on the credentials that are in this database credentials file, so that's where these variables are designed, and then go ahead and let's make that connection. If there was a problem or an error, that's what lines 20 and 21 are. They're going to stop it, they're going to spit out an error on the screen. Hopefully it'll give you some debug information to help you figure out what the problem is. Have a couple more lines down here, we're standard HTML. Now this is where we're getting into actually looking at getting the data out of the database. This variable, once again, variables start with a $sign. This variable named SQL_select, we're going to set it to this SQL string over here. And what this is doing is going to say select records. Well, which records? Here we're using a wildcard, the asterisk, the shift 8. And basically what it says is select all the records, and then from what table. That's what the next part is, from table lab 9 base. Select all the records from table lab 9 base. Then this $STMT statement, this statement variable is equal to the actual connection and sending the query to the database. This is where it actually makes the query happen to the database, and then the database is going to return information. We're going to set this $bases. Notice that there's the S here on the end of it, that this bases is equal to everything that the database sent back, and there should be a number of records in this variable. We come down to the next part. This is an if statement. If, and what it's going to do here is it's going to count the number of records in bases. If the number of records in this bases variable is greater than 0, do what's in this curly brackets. Once again, if you click here on the curly brackets, it'll highlight it here, and it'll also give you a line to show you what it's all going to do. If the count of the records in bases is greater than 0, do this. Here we're starting to set up a table. We give it a table row with some table headers, and then down here is the next part of the SQL statement. For each, and when you see this you can think for each record in the bases variable, and once again the bases variable was set up here. It was the return of all the records from this query based on this select statement. For each record in the basis variable, we're going to assign each record to this, and we're going to basically loop through this. The first time we're going to go in the first record, second time through we're going to go with the second record, and we're going to name it or assign it to this variable base without the s here each time we loop through this. Then what's going to happen here is we're going to create a whole row based on that record. We're going to put out a new table row, a table division here, quote, and then this period means there's more to come. This is the variable base here, so that's the single record we're establishing up here that changes every time through. And then we're going to look for the column that says base ID. We're going to take that value and we're going to place it right here, basically in between these two periods. This period here means there's more coming, and then basically it's closing the cell definition. Next line here, once again, we have a new cell, and we're going to look in this base record, that single record that changes every time we loop through this. We want the base name, and then we also want the base date created. If we look back at our database here, we can see basically each row changes the value as it cycles through. That is what's happening right here with that. And then we go down here, and this part is for our table lab 09 add-in. This part down here is for our table lab 9 ice cream. If we look at that, we have table lab 9 add-in, lists all the stuff out there, and we have table lab 09 ice cream. And notice once again we normalized our database. We have the ice cream ID number here, we have the name, which is there, but now our ice cream base ID number is a 3. And we can go up here to the base ID table. Base ID number 3 is mint. Down here our add-in ID number is 2, and that would be chocolate chips, which makes sense for our mint chocolate chip. We have mint ice cream signified by the 3 and chocolate chips signified by the 2. That's going pretty good. Now next step is, okay, we were able to get the data 3 separate times, but why don't we try to combine it? And that's what the second one down here is, view all data in one table. Go ahead and click on it and we'll show you. Oh geez, here's a lot of columns. View data all in one table. We start off with the ice cream ID number, which should be familiar, which was 1. That's from the ice cream table itself. Then we have the ice cream name, that was from the ice cream table. We got mint chip as our first record. Then we have the ice cream base ID number. Remember how that was a 3, and we'll set it up that it'll take this 3, and then it'll look in the base table here for that 3. And once it finds it, it will then also return the information associated with that 3. So we'll have the 3 here, and then it'll be mint, and then it'll be the date the base was created on. The next field here is from the ice cream table that has the add-in number. Remember, the 2 is for chocolate chip. Same thing's happening here. It's going to take the ice cream add-in ID number from the ice cream table, which was 2, and it's going to look through the add-in table to find where the ID number is 2, and then you can be able to return the chocolate chip's name, and you can also return the add-in date created. Well, how do we do that? Well, we'll jump back into PHP, and we will look at this file right here, example ice cream view all data in one table. Go ahead, double click on it. I'm going to right click over here in this column, and I'm going to say use soft wraps. What that's going to do is wrap this line right here. Start off at the top of the file, looks familiar. We have our include with our credentials. Then we're going to try to establish our connection. If there was an error, it's going to stop the process and give us an error on the screen. If there was no error, it's going to continue on. It'll print out some more information. And then we have our SQL select statement. That's where we decide what we're going to pull out of the database. It starts off the same. We're going to select, and we put an asterisk here, a wildcard, saying we're going to select all the records, and then from what table. Well, starting off like we did on the last web page is we got the table Lab 9 ice cream. But we also want to get access to the information in the base table and the add-in table. What we do here is put a comma, and then we put the next table name, table Lab 9 base, and then finally the third table, comma, table Lab 09 add-in. Here's where we do that comparison, that we get the ID number from the ice cream table, and then we look for the ID number in the base table and the add-in table. That's what the where statement does. Where, so we're going to select all records from these three tables where the ice cream base ID number, that's from the ice cream table, equals the base ID number. And I'm going to jump back to the web page quick. And once again, that's over here, where the ice cream base ID number is equal to the base ID number, and we want the ice cream add-in ID number, and that's from the ice cream table. We want it to be equal to the add-in ID number. That's from the add-in table. And that'll give us access to the base name and the add-in name. And then I added this little order by, or you can think it's a sorting method, and we're going to order by ice cream ID number. And that way it'll display it like we've been used to. It'll have mint chip first in our database. Statement then makes the query to the database. Database will send information back. It'll place it in the ice creams variable. All the data, all the records returned will go into the ice creams variable. And then we come down here. If there's more than 0 records in the ice creams variable from here, we'll do what's all in these curly brackets that go from here down to here. Once again, we have a couple more fields here we're displaying, but we're just setting up one row, and then we get to our for each. So for each record in the ice creams variable, and once again, ice creams was the variable that held everything that was returned from the query based upon our select statement. For each record in there, we're going to assign it, and once again, we're going to step through every record in there. Every time we step through, we're going to assign that new record to this ice cream variable, and then we're going to process a new line for each record. And here we're going to put, and once again, this ice cream refers to this ice cream variable. We're going to look for the ice cream ID DB field, and we're going to put that value here. Next one is we're going to once again look in the ice cream variable, assign from right here. We're going to look for the ice cream name, then the base ID, and once again, because we put all of the information returned from the database into this ice creams, and then we're matching it up on a per record basis to ice cream, the base ID numbers in there, the base name, the base date created, and all the add information are there. It'll loop through that and it'll print it out. That's what gives us our table here that has all this information. Of course, this is not user friendly. And what we can do is, I'm going to go back to the main page, and we can go out and just not show some of those columns. And right here, the third one down is example ice cream view by ice cream name. Go ahead and click on it, and I changed the sorting here, so it's alphabetical by ice cream name, and now it displays the base name. And notice how all the bases are spelled correctly. If you go back to the demo database, I purposely spelt the base names wrong, and in chocolate I put abbreviations in there. I spelled chocolate wrong many times. Now it looks good, and it feels, and it's consistent. Same thing with the add-ons field. All of that is consistent. Brownies is brownies is brownies. Bing cherries is where cherries are being used. Otherwise, I had cherries sometimes. Chocolate chips I murdered on purpose several times so that we could see that it looked inconsistent, but now we've added some consistency. We've shrunken down our database, and it actually functions faster. Thank you for watching.